Hey, I got a new haircut. Does this look better than the rat's nest I had before? Well, anyways, so you know, it's another retro review this week, and for most of these, I've been covering some obscure or maybe forgotten items of the old world of hi-fi or chi-fi, for that matter. But today, I'm bringing in an item that is definitely not that obscure. It's gonna be the Tin Audio T2. So this is basically the IM that put Tin Audio on the map of Chi-Fi, and it has been a go-to recommendation for a long time in audiophile circles. Well, it's now 2021, and we're here to answer the question: does the Tin T2 hold up? I don't know, but let's see. And with that, let's get started with the retro review of the Tin Audio T2. You get this little box. It's got a little writing in the front and the back, but otherwise very neat, small, and minimalistic. You open it, and inside the outer box you get this inner box. It's the actual storage compartment. It's a little box thingy with you can see like this faux leather look, kind of like the Ibeso IT01's inner box actually. Though this one is a more book-like look, I guess. Pretty nice. When you flip up the box, you will see this instruction leaflet. It's both in Chinese as well as some very questionable English, I would say. Top bit, you are presented with the Tin Audio T2, presented in some foam inserts, as well as the jack part of the cable. You get these generic looking silicone tips. Some of them are narrow bore, and some of them are the type that are wide bores. As you can see, it's pairs of small, medium, and large sizes. And of course, you also have the blue foamies which are pre-installed in the Tin T2. It kind of looks a bit beat up now since it's been with me for years now, but it's still alright. Well, this unboxing experience itself, it's alright. Tin Audio, you can see they tried to put some effort in. They had this like cool fake leathery looking box thingy. And it's a bit of a mix-up compared to your typical just cardboard box. And accessories-wise, I do like that they included some foamies with the T2 as well as the tips. But I do lament the fact that they did not at least put in some kind of carrying pouch in there. But okay, the Tin Audio T2 came out in like 2016. Back then not having any carrying accessories was to be expected. Still though, you buy it now and that's sort of one less accessory that you'll get. It's a bit of a loss, I guess. Okay, so the cable braid of the Tin T2 cable, it's mostly fine actually. It's a bit of a tighter looking braid than usual, but it's light, it doesn't tangle much. It's not too microphonic, and it doesn't kill the T2's sound. My only gripe of it though is that the white ivory-ish color, it just doesn't really match with the Tin T2's metal housing. The MCX cables and the connectors here, it's pretty standard fare, although I must say that the spin is tighter when you pair it with the Tin T2 than when you use it with a normal custom cable. The problem, I guess, is mostly aesthetics, because although it's transparent plastic, it's very hard to make out the left and right connector. You can see this little R on the plastic, but it has to be under some specific lighting for you to see it. On the left side, there's also like a bit of a dimple for you to spot the connection. But again, it's it's subtle. It's kind of hard to pinpoint the left and right sides. This jack part though, a few problems here. It looks alright I guess, but this metal portion, It was supposed to be gold colored, but I don't know what kind of paint they use, but the gold of this metal bit, it went away after 3 days of me owning the Tinty 2. I don't know how that works, and you know, it was mostly cosmetic, but still kind of weird. And you can see a bit of the bend here. I think I bumped the cable when I was using the Tinty 2. It's been a long time ago, so I don't remember how I did it. But you know, I've bumped into other connectors and they don't bend like this. Let me just say. So yeah, the quality control on this cable may not be the best. Let me say. And here's the Tinty 2s in the flesh. They have a metal build, or at least I think it is metal, and it's sort of like a bullet shape, you see, but it's got like a stem sticking out of the bullet bit. You've got these red and blue rings here. They're basically left and right indicators, with the red being the right and the blue being the left. But the thing is, back in the day, there was a whole controversy about random batches of Tin Audio T2s having like reverse left and right connectors. That was a whole ordeal. This spawned like 4 ways to wear the Tin Audio T2. Some of these basically involving using like opposite side connectors of the cable as well. So a lot of reviewers basically reviewed an out of phase polarity flipped Tin T2 sound. So I'm gonna show you some pics of the ways you can wear the Tin Audio T2. It's real weird stuff, but you know, you'll see that there are 4 ways to wear the Tin Audio T2. And well, out of the 4 ways, the one that I'll be using to wear the Tin T2 is I'll show it on screen right now. It ensures that the left and right sides are properly connected, so no out of phase or weird polarity reversal issues here. And when you wear the Tin T2 this way, you can wear it sort of over the ear, which helps them stay on a little better. Either way you'll wear it though, you'll find that it's equally uncomfortable. It's a shallow fit, and basically the tips are the only thing that's grabbing your ears and keeping the T2 in. Luckily though, they are lightweight, so at least it won't hurt your ears too much, but yeah, these ain't no comfort champs, let me tell ya. So as for source matching, yeah, you're gonna want a warm source for the Tin Audio T2, hence why I'm gonna go with my iBasso DX150. The T2, it has a very light bass range, perhaps even ineffectual. So anything to thicken it up and increase its presence in the mix is welcomed indeed. And the DX150 surely does a heck of a better job at it than the LG V20. As for the tip selection, I'm gonna use these generic like narrow bore silicone tips that Tin Audio gave. It's average in terms of comfort and fit, but it doesn't harm the sound, and to be frank, I really haven't found anything better than it without some sort of concession here and there. Honorable mentions to the blue foamies that were included with the Tin T2. When it was new, it could be easily squeezed and then inserted into your ears where it expands, but it doesn't, although it doesn't wear as fast as Comfly foams, but when it ages, it loses the ability to be squished down, and it's just, you know, when it loses that ability to deform, it just becomes a little too big for my ears, unfortunately. But you know, now that all that's out of the way, let's get to the sound of the Tin Audio T2. Okay, so talking about the Tin T2's bass, where's the sub bass? Yeah, don't expect much slam or rumble coming from the Tin Audio T2s. It just doesn't really hit that hard. However, the T2 does have a decent mid bass. It's a little dry, but it's still present in the mix, so you don't feel like there's like no bass at all. Don't worry about that. Still though, I wouldn't listen to much EDM for this set. but stuff like R&B or lo-fi, it works quite well. And the thing is, this sort of kind of here, kind of not bass of the Tin Audio T2, it actually kind of helps the mids and highs because there's very little in the way of like rumble and impact. But because of that, the mid range and the of the T2 is actually very well articulated and separated. And because the bass is less emphasized, you tend to actually hear more of the other two frequency ranges. And hence, this is why many tended to say that the Tin Audio T2 was neutral sounding. Now, what can I say about the mid-range of the Tin T2? I guess inoffensive is one way to put it. It isn't recessed like your typical V-shaped sound, but it isn't really as effervescent as Moondrop tuning, right? Nor is it boosted. It's just there. It doesn't excel particularly at anything, but it doesn't really fail at any other category. The less present bass basically gives way for the mids to show themselves. And while you don't hear much mids suck out on the T2 at all, actually, you just feel like there's more details to the mids, if only because your attention has been shifted from the bass to the mid-range. And this mid-range of the T2, it's just ever so slightly warm enough so that you can't say it's lifeless. It prioritizes instruments over vocals, and it's easy to like in the fact that, like I said, it's inoffensive. If I have to nitpick, it's just that it doesn't have much dynamics, the mid-range, and the separation is only so-so. But otherwise, exactly because it doesn't do anything really wrong, which is why it was so loved by people back in the day. And for the highs, well, I wouldn't use the descriptor neutral for the Tin T2's highs, but rather I would use natural. I think is more accurate. It's not sibilant or overly prevalent. It adds a nice sparkle to songs without feeling like the tuning was forcibly made to give an edge to instruments. It's just a really light and airy way to introduce highs into the songs. Very elegant. Again, thanks to the non-intrusive bass, the T2's highs are given a bit more space to play in the sound. And because it doesn't need to be boosted to compensate, it is able to give a very organic presentation, and I really like it a lot. Now, for the soundstage, I think it's actually because, due in part to the bass-light tuning of the T2, that makes you think like you're not like swamped in bass when listening to music, and thus it creates this feeling where the soundstage feels wider than it really is. And well, I don't care whether it's actually better or if there's some audio trickery, but I do feel that the Tin T2 does a good job of portraying a moderately wide soundstage, just a little bit more out of your head than usual. And the separation of the Tin T2 is also helped by this, because although the resolution of the Tin T2 is only mediocre, with what detail it is able to extract, it brings forth all of that with the best of its ability, and it makes up for the lack of micro details by presenting macro details very proficiently. Perhaps due to its age though, the Tin T2 doesn't have much in terms of presenting texture, and it sort of softens instruments a little bit. Alright, so the thing you're going to see when I compare the Tin T2 with its brethren is that the Tin T2 achieved this accidental sweet spot where everything fell in line just right. And whatever Tin Audio has tried to change to make it better has ended up backfiring and made it worse. So with the Tin T2 Pro, they took a Tin T2 and they gave it a bit of a bump in the treble range. This did not make the highs much more clear, It just made it sound like the highs at a disproportionate distance from the other frequencies, and it made the lacking bass even more noticeable. And then you have the Tin Audio T3. They bumped up the bass a bit, then they bumped up the highs a bit. So, in trying to rectify the weakness of the Tin T2 and possibly amplifying its strength, Tin Audio basically turned the T3 into a generic V-shaped KZ. And it's an even worse KZ at that. I felt like the extra balanced armature that they stuffed into the T3 did not help with its technicalities at all. And its tuning basically lost what made the T2 special. I feel so bad that the Tin T3, despite being this worst set, it rode on the fame of the T2 and became the go-to recommendation of everyone from like 2018 to early 2019, when the T2, in my opinion, was cheaper and, again, in my opinion, so much better than T3. I've also got to recently try the Tin Audio T2 Plus. It sounds more like a blonde BL03 than it sounds like a Tin T2. Get the Tin T2. Don't get the T2 Plus. I've also tried out the Tin Audio T5. It has a more sort of bulbous looking shell, and it fits into my ear a bit better than the ergonomics of the Tin T2, but it sounds like another generic V-shape with raspy vocals. So it's just worse than the Tin T2. Just buy the Tin T2. Everything that Tin Audio has tried to topple the Tin T2, it just hasn't worked. Get the Tin T2, guys. And then comparing the Tin T2 with the Moondrop Aria, I'm doing this comparison partly because someone on Reddit asked me about it, so here we go, enjoy. Purely from a technical perspective, I do think the Aria is better. However, I think that the T2 gets close enough within spitting distance, thanks to its tuning, that I wouldn't call the Aria an upgrade to the Tin T2 if what you're looking for is more technicalities. At best, the difference would be subtle. If you want an alternative flavor of tuning, then yes, the Aria would then be viable. Which, like I said, from a tuning perspective as well, you will have to factor in what you're used to. I think fellow Tin Audio T2 owners will agree with me here that if you're used to the Tin T2 sound, other IEMs can feel very bassy in comparison. And likewise, Aria owners will find that the Tin T2 lacks bass and thus the necessary thump for heavier music genres, so your mileage may vary. So, do you see now why I title this video and I title the Tin T2 as the Great Neutral Pretender? It's because it was never really neutral sounding. If anything, it was bass light. However, the lack of bass meant that your focus in the music is shifted to the mids and highs, which were handled inoffensively and even somewhat naturally, and thus it could be easily seen as having a neutral sound, while, again, like I said, it's not neutral, it's trying to act like it sounds neutral. There's a difference. And it was this incidental occurrence of elements which culminated in Tin Audio T2 that made it such a well-regarded IEM in the chi-fi world of the past. And it's also what continues to validate its existence well into the modern day. As such, I can still recommend the Tin Audio T2 to anyone who doesn't mind the not so powerful bass and someone who wants a natural, easygoing, and non-offensive sound. And trust me, get the T2 over, the higher number T series of Tin Audio. I'm telling you, the original T2 is still one of the, it's a masterpiece that Tin Audio had created and have failed to replicate it ever since. Alright, we've reached the end of the Tin Audio T2 review. Yeah, I just got a haircut recently, so it's a little shorter. Maybe I'll look worse, maybe I'll look better, I don't know, but hey, tell me in the comments, do I look better with this new haircut, or do I look worse now? Otherwise, I will put the music I use in the description. I'll also put the links to my website where you can see some written reviews, you can see some of my old art projects, as well as the About page where you will find a variety of ways you can donate to me. I'll also leave my Patreon link down there if you want to support me, if you want these reviews to come out faster, if you want me to have the money to buy the stuff to bring in for review. Yeah, you can support me there. Right now it's mostly for donation purposes, but I will get to adding the rewards to the tiers soon enough. Otherwise, if you like the video, like it. If you want to watch more, subscribe to my channel. If you have any suggestions or questions, put it in the comments. And thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.